Welcome back to the Real Estate 401k Show. I'm your host, Mike Weinstein, sitting beside Justin Frederick and Ryan Gerdes down at the end, and Mike Simpson is hanging out, our civil engineer expert. So you're going to want to go ahead and text the word, I don't know, man, Plummet. How about text the word Plummet to 623-AZ-RECON. That's Plummet to 623-AZ-RECON. Don't stress out if you can't spell the word. I can spell it because I'm looking at it right now. So it's got two M's
I'm surprised you were able to read it.
I don't think anyone uses autocorrect more than Mike does on his phone.
Anyways, so a lot going on in the market. We've been talking about it for several weeks now, how we sense that we're in a buyer's market right now. It's better to be a buyer and taking advantage of sellers as far as whether, coming down on price and seller concessions and so forth. But we came across this article. By the end of 2025, the 11 types of homes that will plummet in states like Arizona. And we want to focus on a couple of them because there's one way you can look at it. You can hear the word plummet and go, oh my gosh, sky is falling and I don't want to do anything. For me, I hear the word plummet. I'm like, okay, this is an opportunity. Mm-hmm. This is now really becoming part of my strategy. And on some of these homes, when I submit an offer, I might even just submit this article, with the offer.
You see this, you fall into this category.
So the first ones that I wanted to focus on, because it's my favorite. I always, the very first home I ever owned in Arizona, it was the first home I ever owned, was on the 13th fairway at Western Skies Golf Course in Gilbert. It was just, I paid $87,500 to live on the golf course, and then I got a job, and so I moved out 9 to 10 months later.
$87,000 doesn't even buy you the lot
No.
anymore.
No. And so I ended up selling it, which was a huge regret. And we talk so much about this show about taking a look at your options. Do you need to sell? Is it something that you might want to think about hanging on to when you go buy your next home? But I've always wanted to get back to golf course, living on a golf course. And so there's a lot of thought that, because people pay premiums to live on the golf course.
Big premiums.
But with the way the market is, I think large golf course homes that have big premiums are going to be on the market for a long time. And I think because a lot of people don't want to pay these big giant premiums in our market, Ryan. I think there's an opportunity for people looking for golf course homes.
I do too. I think that there's also different categories, because we've also seen a couple of golf courses just fold up their tents and leave, and now all you have is kind of like a wasteland sitting behind your home.
That's like Levine.
Yeah, so but the old Bougainvillea golf course, they folded up their tents, and I know that there's a lot of people that paid for at the time a decent premium in order to be on the golf course, and now they just kind of have, like I said, wasteland sitting behind them. So, if you're going to consider a property that's on a golf course, I would look at the solvency and the management of that golf course before making any decisions, for sure. But the higher end ones, Troon and and the older ones like the Country Club and whatnot, those have been established for decades now. What you see is pretty much going to be what you get, and I don't think that you're going to really lose out on future potentials on some of those. But some of these massive ones, like Biltmore, right? Like super established. I'm not saying don't look in the Biltmore area, but for those ones right there specifically, there's still a lot of lots that are available. Okay, maybe not a lot, but there's a few of them that are still available in there. And I could see, if we were wanting to do something super elaborate over there, that you could get yourself hurt pretty darn quick if you're not careful on what it is that you're trying to do there.
Yeah, and I think, Justin, the other thing is, and you see it around town, there's a lot of controversy, and I think a lot of misinformation and a lot of bickering and debating going on about, do we have enough water and what's our water situation looking like, and a lot of municipalities are stepping in. So I think the other thing that you got to be careful with when you buy a golf course lot, and especially if you're investing into a huge premium for that lot, we're going to see a lot more, I think, water allocation. which means golf courses are not going to be able to use unlimited water to water the golf courses and keep it, pristine and that deep green and so forth. And we see it in some golf courses. And in some golf courses, they're having a hard time to afford to pay for all the water that it takes.
Well, I've been waiting for them to do this. I have a friend that works out at Hillcrest, and I've been waiting for them to cut back on their water supply, but they're required to use 1 million acres of water per year, or else they lose out on like their allocation, their specific amount of allocation. So they're just, a lot of times they're just dumping water into the lake to fill up the lake just to get through their 1 million acres of water per year. And they were saying they pay nothing for the water, basically. I've been waiting for that. I mean, we've been talking about having water issues. Why are we doing 1 million acres of water on a golf course?
So that brings up a good point, because on Monday we talked about the negative impacts of water as it pertains to foundation, etc. My question for you, when it comes to these golf courses, let's say that they stop using their 1 million acres or whatever, and all of a sudden there's a lot of landscape that dries up because they either minimized it or got rid. I mean, are there any impacts that could be that could exist for the homes around there? I mean, I know that the walls can definitely start crumbling if it goes from wet all the time to now completely dry.
It really depends on proximity to the structures. Generally speaking, it's going to be too far away to impact the structures. But even though I'm a civil engineer, I took a few water resources courses back in the day, and I actually worked at SRP for an internship. But what my understanding is that when the developer develops something, they have to show that they've purchased 100 years of water rights. And so, and people are selling, the farmers are selling their water rights so that, things like that, so that the developer can then go ahead and develop it. So the golf course probably bought those water rights, and then they need to make sure they use their allocation. But I'm just not in depth enough on this topic.
All right, large desert mansions is the other one that they're predicting are going to plummet in values, and we see them here. They're everywhere, especially up in North
Cave
Scottsdale,
Creek,
Cave Creek, Troon, Peoria. I mean, I've been out looking at some
quite a bit out there.
$1.5 million mansions out there, out in Peoria. For a client, and so Ryan and I, we've been seems like we've been really shifted into this market, but there's a lot of expense, and people are getting a little tighter. A lot of uncertainty in the market, and there's a lot of expense, whether going back to water, going back to just a maintenance on the home, energy, and so forth. You think you got a large mortgage. I think my mortgage payment right now is high. Just trying to service my utilities at one of these.
Well, I think that's hitting the nail on the head, because when we look at the different properties that we're focusing on here today, they all cross the Venn diagram of energy or resources. And so when we're out looking at, because there's plenty of large desert homes that are selling. There's still definitely a market for all these, but if you're wanting to curb the value of your luxury, desert mansion from going down, you need to make sure that you have better infrastructure in there. I think solar, I mean, we've been seeing solar on the rise. Making sure that if you are in like a R43 or something like on a county island, making sure that there's plenty of water down there in that well. Some of these areas like Rio Verde, I mean, they've had water issues for a while now where they're not permitting wells to go in there, and that they're having to bring in a lot of water on a cistern. And I mean, they're charging 7 cents a gallon or something like that. And while that doesn't sound like nearly as much when you go over to the water store and buy it for a quarter, okay, well, this is, a fraction of that, but it adds up when you're
married to my wife, who turns on the shower and waits 10 minutes to jump in.
Because what goes along with these large desert mansions comes a
Landscape.
pool. And so they're over there trying to maintain a 30 to 40,000 gallon pool, and with the evaporation, if they're trying to haul in that much water, it adds up really fast, and you can be looking at a $500-600 a month water bill, and you're not even. It could be something that's just regular maintenance expense, not even what you're actually using, just in order to keep the trees watered and the pool full. So like if you are going to move into this space, making sure that you have that infrastructure there or being ready to cover that big bill is going to be a very important decision.
Yeah, and Justin, I think too, it's just going in. If you're in the market to buy a large desert mansion, just understanding that you got to be very careful what you pay for it.
Oh, yeah.
Because if those property values, if a $1.5 million desert mansion pops on the market and you pay $1.5 million, and then in middle of next year, those will the drops in a $1.5 million home are more significant than drops in a $350,000 home.
100%. But I feel like we've already seen a lot of this. That's why I feel like the attraction is there. The demand is coming back for these types of properties. I mean, you guys are showing properties today on these level of homes, and we're seeing the deals coming out of the woodworks on these types of properties. But you're absolutely right. I mean, you drop $1 per square foot on a 10,000 square foot house. Well, that's real quick. You're losing 10 grand. So yeah, but just like Ryan was saying, the utilities, you get an acre lot and you have half of it covered in grass, and the amount of water that you have to put on it to keep it green. You're watering it twice a day. You probably have a 20 system irrigation system running on it, and you're just running water all the time.
I think if I'm in the market to buy one of these, I'm going to request the last 12 months of bills.
Just
of
to see
utility bills, just to kind of get a feel for it. And Mike, Ryan said that you are in the market for a $3 million home, so let's go.
Yeah, right.
We got time today to take you out.
There is something that's just not being mentioned on here that, Mike, I'd like you to weigh in on too. And we've talked about it in the past, and that is insurability. And I know that particularly out in the desert, like the more county islands, et cetera, we're running into homes that require flood insurance pretty frequently. And from conversations with you and with Aaron, I know that FEMA has been doing some movement on their flood maps, et cetera. What are your thoughts on any of that, and what do you see changing on the fabric of the engineering industry on that?
Well, I just bought I bought a property over in Camp Verde on the river. So it's in a floodplain.
Cool.
And so I have to, it's about 6 feet up to BFE, which is base flood elevation. So FEMA makes these flood maps, but they're regularly adjusting them. And so you just don't know when they're going to do it. And they always put it out for comment, so if your property's up, but it requires you to watch to see if it's coming up and not. I think it's a real concern, because if they raise the base flood elevation for my lot, let's say, it's fine right now because I haven't built yet, but let's say that it's 6 feet and they go, it needs to be 7 or 8, okay, and I built to 7. Well, I don't have to change how I built it, but it definitely becomes more expensive to insure it, right? Yeah. So I think it is a very critical item. The other one that concerns me is fire insurance, as we go forward, even in the desert. I think insurers are stepping away from these industries, these areas, and that means the federal government becomes the insurer, and we'll see how that plays out.
So even if you're not turning the lights on or not watering your plants, your overhead still goes up because you're required to pay that flood insurance or that additional hazard insurance for the fire coverage. So I think that when you're looking at these homes, if once you talk to your insurance providers, they're going to be able to give you a bunch of different tips that will help you to either curb or eliminate some additional costs. So again, I'm over here trying to mitigate. If you are in the market for one of these, or if you own a property like this and you are looking to either sell it or buy one, then these are some elements that you need to pay attention to, or possibilities where you could get additional incentives or price reductions if a property that you're considering doesn't have one or many of these things.
All right, we were talking about the 11 types of homes that are expected to plummet in value by the end of this year. If you like the entire list, all you got to do is text the word Plummet to 623-AZ-RECON. That's Plummet to 623-AZ-RECON. And then the last one I wanted to get into is luxury condos. They're beautiful. I mean, we have got some incredible luxury condos. We see quite a few of them going up in the Scottsdale Quarter and the Kierland area, Old Town Scottsdale. There's some stuff popping up in downtown Phoenix. I don't know about you, but when I drive by one of those, I'm like, first of all, you think about, I wonder how much they're selling for, but two, I'm like, I bet that HOA payment's going to be a real kick in the nuts.
Oh, yeah.
What I do love it, though, because I think that we are so behind on the times with how we've been using our real estate. Like, it was forever before mixed use ever came into the mix or into the market. And now we're starting to see places, like downtown Chandler and downtown Glendale. They're starting to do some rezoning so that you can have some mixed use in there. But I mean, back east, that's
super common.
That's all they're doing, right? It's
Yep.
all mixed use, and they're the ones who kind of invented luxury condos, and they just didn't exist out here. Now they started to do some conversion stuff that kind of mimicked luxury condos, or they'd take old hotels and turn them into condos, and they would just wipe out an entire floor, and that would be your new home. But now they're starting to build them with purpose. And so I love it, but I just don't know if the culture here yet has fully come around. And I think that's probably another reason why they haven't really either quite caught on or fetched the value that they probably deserve. But yeah, I think those HOAs are
well, that begs the question: who is the target audience for them? Are they like, for me? I've lived my whole, I grew up in Southern California in a nice house, and out here, I've owned several houses. For me, I drive by, I'm like, I don't want to live in one of those, because I'm just used to having space in a regular house. So, is the target audience, is it people coming from the East, moving out here, and they're used to this? And I know for a lot of retirees, it's an ideal situation. So maybe next year I might be more interested, due to my age, in one of these, right?
That's why you've been thinking about it. Yeah. You're setting it up.
No, yeah, I think you're right, man. It's got to be people that have been kind of raised in that culture that are going to be mostly attracted to it. I don't see that there's going to be a whole lot of second homeowners or whatever that are going to be keeping a luxury condo. I mean, maybe some, but for the most part, if they're getting a second home out here, they're seeing the amount of real estate that they can buy for a fraction of what they're paying for it in Manhattan, for instance, right? If they're going to go out and spend $2 million on an apartment or a condo in Manhattan, they're not getting a whole lot. They come out here with $2 million. They're like,
holy crap!
I get this big ass house on a golf course or whatever, and have a lot more freedom. So I think that's where most of them are spending money if they're coming out here with deeper pockets.
Justin, on these luxury condos, I don't want to call them high rises. I mean, we use that term.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
for
we're
us,
getting there.
They're high rises. Anything different on the lending side of these things, and what do we have to take into account for?
Yeah, so we're looking at investor occupancy. We're looking at how the HOA handles their financials. If there's any litigation happening within the HOA, we're just making sure that it's a solid investment, not only for you, but for ourselves, making sure that we're not getting into something that's going to plummet in value. But there's different pricing when it comes to condos, depending on what you're putting down, what type of program we're going after. So there's a few things that go along with the condos, but they do take a little bit more time to process, just because we have to communicate with the HOAs, and a lot of time those HOAs just don't want to give us the time of day.
Yeah.
So we're spending a lot of time getting in contact with them, getting their financials, getting their insurance information, making sure that this is a warrantable condo, something that we can invest in.
All right, we're talking about the 11 types of homes that are likely to plummet in states like Arizona. If you want to get a hold of this entire list, and more importantly, the word plummet to me means opportunity. And, maybe at the end of 2025, I see how this is going and property values
be
are
in a
going
condo.
down and days on market are extending. It might be a huge opportunity. But to get this list or to talk to us about these opportunities, go ahead and text the word Plummet to 623 AZ Recon. That's Plummet to 623 AZ Recon, or just write the word Plummet in the comments section.